Hi, my name is Parama, and today I will be talking to you about teen sleep cycles and how school start times should change for them. Do you think school starts too early for you? Well, you're not alone. Among teens, sleep deprivation is an epidemic. Many high school students agree that they do not rest enough, and schools are fighting this by starting school later. Studies have shown that pushing back high school start times has many benefits. But this raises an important question. Why can't students just go to bed earlier?
With the onset of puberty, there is a change in the sleep hormone melatonin. So when melatonin rises, it starts a chain reaction that gets all our other body systems ready for sleep. In a child that was prepubescent, their melatonin might rise about 8:45 and they'd be sleepy about 9:30. For a teenager, that delays. Melatonin can start rising at 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock, sometimes even later, which means that sleepiness and sleep onset doesn't start until much later.
Basically, during puberty, adolescent circadian rhythms are pushed back, which increases their sensitivity to light in the morning. This results in teens going to bed later and being drowsy when they wake up for early morning classes. Pushing back start times can result in more sleep, less fluctuation in circadian rhythms in the weekends, and better focus during school. So, though there are claims that shifting schedules may be difficult and costly, delaying start times for high schoolers will be beneficial for their sleep and academic performance. First of all, shifting school start times later will provide more time to rest. Teens, based on their circadian rhythms, go to bed later than their younger peers. So, to get the recommended amount of sleep, their school should start later for them. This is shown in a study by the Seattle Public Schools District when they changed their high school start times from 7:50 a.m. to 8:45 a.m. According to the 2017 study, researchers at the University of Washington and the Salk Institute for Biological Studies announced that teens at Seattle high schools got more sleep on school nights after start times were pushed later. The change boosted the total amount of sleep on school nights for students from a median of 6 hours and 50 minutes under the earlier start time to 7 hours and 24 minutes under the later start time. This is great because the recommended amount of sleep for teens is 8 to 10 hours, and shifting school times can help students reach that goal. This means that teens will be well rested and healthier. Also, there are many consequences to lack of sleep, and shifting our school start times can prevent the many dangers. All of the studies of adolescent sleep patterns in the United States are showing that the time at which teens generally fall asleep is biologically determined, but the time at which they wake up is socially determined, said Dunster, a professor in the biology department at the University of Washington. This has severe consequences for health and well being because disrupted circadian rhythms can adversely affect digestion, heart rate, body temperature, immune system function, attention span, and mental health. This is significant because we have to allow students to wake up with their biological clocks rather than early socially enforced times. This can also prevent these problems, and teens will be less likely to become sick too. The increase of sleep high school students can get because of pushing back start times will help them in more ways than one. Another key reason that delaying high school start times is beneficial is because it improves focus and therefore results in higher academic performance in school. When students sleep for an adequate amount of time and are at school when they're ready to learn, they retain more knowledge. Besides getting more sleep, students who could sleep in later also got better grades. On a scale of 0 to 100, their median scores increased from 77.5 to 82.0. Studies have shown that good sleep habits help us learn, says Dunster. That's why we concluded that the later start times improved academic performance. It makes sense that students that have additional time to sleep and added time in the morning will be ready to learn. Later start times also mean that there will be an increase in attendance, as seen in the Seattle study. To see if later start times affected attendance, the researchers looked at two schools separately. One had 31% of the students from lower income families. In the other school, 88% came from lower income families. In the wealthier school, there wasn't much change in missed school hours. But at the school with more low income kids, the new start time boosted attendance. During the academic year, the school recorded an average of 13.6 absences and 4.3 tardies for the first period. Before the schedule change, those yearly numbers were 15.5 and 6.2. The fact that low income families have greater attendance difference may be because they are more dependent on buses for transportation. If their kids have trouble catching the bus, they might not be able to drop them off at school because their work is so important. Having school start later allows more students to come to school and help economically stressed families. Although this sounds fair, some say delaying start times may bring financial challenges and changes that upset people. Because districts usually have schedules that have high schools first, then middle schools, then elementary schools, pushing back high school times means either more money for buses or a change in schedule for all the district's kids. In one locality, they considered changing the start time and they discussed. The obstacles to change are mostly financial. St. Paul, Minnesota, public schools delayed the adoption of later start times for all its high school students, even after seeing great results in a one school pilot study because of transportation issues. One district did adopt the change. Some parents of younger children objected when bus schedules were flipped and their kids were put on an earlier schedule for the next year. Some argued that later start times would get in the way of after school activities like football practice. This shows that problems may arise, like financial obstacles and schedule alterations, once high school times are changed. However, the sleep and well being of teens are extremely important, and there will always be a plan where after school activities and bus routines can adapt for the students they're there for. In the long run, delaying start times will make students more focused and well rested. Seeing that many schools are changing their plans proves that this transition, while a bit difficult, is better for the students. They can help their siblings in the morning if they go to school later, and they will have higher academic performance, which will give them a better future and a financial benefit. So, delaying start times will be the best for the students and the district. In conclusion, pushing back start times for high school students will allow them to be well rested and better prepared for classes. This is crucial because high school students are not receiving their recommended amount of sleep, and students may need more time in the morning to reach school. We want to have teens be healthier, and school starting later will help them grow into the future figures of the world. Adolescents have their schedules. The question is, what schedule will their schools be?